Hi everybody, it's Cheryl with Silver Sage Studio. I don't know when you're watching this, but I am creating this video when we are knee-deep into the COVID-19 social distancing experiment that we're involved in, and I'm feeling a little stressed at the point that I'm making this art journal page and was really feeling like I needed to get some things out and to kind of express my frustration on paper and to turn that frustration around. I am a high school teacher, and this was at the end of a week where we were preparing to take what we were doing and transferring it all to a digital format. And it was a crazy week with thousands of emails and many online meetings and lots of work at the computer. So it felt good to stand at my counter and do some work here. So what I'm doing right now is I've taken a couple of colored Sharpies, and I'm just kind of journaling here. I'm not intending to write this in a way that anybody can read it. I'm just kind of talking about how I'm feeling and getting some color and some visual texture on paper. That's always a great way to start an art journal page if you are having trouble thinking of what to do. If that blank page is really bothering you, then, get some scribbles out on paper in color. All right, so I've taken I have this old dictionary that was damaged, and so I use some of the pages here. I sometimes clean off my brushes, and then I've got this nice text paper with color on it. So I've taken that and I have torn it up into smaller bits. I'm gluing it down using golden regular matte media, gel media that I really like to use here. And I put the gel down, I put the paper down, and then I cover it again with the gel medium. Right there, I was just using an old gift card to get that tucked nice into that corner. As you can see here, this art journal, I'm like on the last few pages, and so it doesn't really lay flat, and I have to use a clip just to keep it open. Now I'm drying it, and at this point, I know it looks like a hot mess and it looks horrible, but I really do love the layers that you get with art journaling and mixed media, and I love I just love how it ends up coming out. So this is one of my favorite processes for doing an art journal page. Once that has dried, I take some watercolor crayons and color on the page. Again, I'm just trying to get some color down on the page and get those layers covered up a little bit. Once I get some of that on the page, I'm going to wet it with a water brush. And for some reason, I never got this water brush working. I don't know what was wrong with it, but no water was coming out of it. So I had to switch brushes here. And these are some of my favorite products of all time are these Neocolor 2 watercolor crayons. I guess the first time I used them, I thought they were pure magic. The idea that you could color with a crayon and then wet it and have it turn into color like a watercolor medium blew my mind. And ever since, they've been one of my favorite media. So now I'm going to cover this up a little bit with gesso. At this point, I want to take the busyness of this page and tone it down a little bit. So first I'm going to scrape some gesso on there using a palette knife. And then I'm going to take a brayer and let the brayer spread out that gesso a little bit. Of course, everybody has their own way of working, especially I think with mixed media, but I like to build up a couple layers and then push them back a little bit and then build up some layers, sometimes pulling out again those lower layers and just keep building from there. So as you can see here, even though I covered up some of my color a little bit and muted it at least anyways, here I am adding some more color with those Neocolors. These were brand new to me, by the way, so I was super excited to use them in this art journal page. These particular colors were new to me. So that color is getting blended out a little bit more again, and I've decided to add some more purple. And there's really not a lot of rhyme or reason here. It's really just a matter of having fun and not doing a whole lot of that left-brained thinking, which I think is a lot of what I like about art journaling, is it really shuts down that verbal part of my brain and gives me a break from how I live most of the rest of my life. So again, I'm putting some more gesso down. The Brayer's not going to quite get this as much as I would like because the art journal's not lying flat, so eventually I'm going to switch to a dry brush. But for now, I'm going to stop talking and play some music. Now that the gesso is dry, I have gotten out my Dr. P.H. Martin's acrylic inks. I absolutely love these. They are still a little bit new to me. I'm using two colors today, quinacridone violet and aqua. And I'm going to drip it here up on the sides using some water from the water brush to help it work its way down. I honestly don't have a big picture plan here. And again, this is a lot of what I like about art journaling. It's an in-the-moment, spontaneous process for me. It's not that way for everybody, I know that, but for me, that's almost necessary because that's my escape from that overthinking part of my brain. And drips like this are the perfect thing sometimes to just give you that feeling that you can just go with the flow and whatever happens is what's going to work out. And the truth is, in an art journal, that's for me a lot of the point is I'm trying out techniques, I'm trying out products, and as you'll see in a bit, I'm going to try a process that does not work. And sometimes that's what happens in an art journal page, but I'd rather that happen in an art journal than on an expensive canvas or on a project that I'm planning to put up on my wall. As you can see, I moved on to the aqua, and I'm sorry that part of that is out of the screen. One of the things I like about these acrylic inks versus the water-based spray inks that a lot of us use, I have some that I absolutely love as well, but the acrylic inks are permanent once dry because they're not water-based, they're acrylic-based. So as soon as they dry, they're permanent. So you can go over it with any kind of wet media and it's not going to pick up that color. It's not going to smudge the color. And sometimes that's what you want. Sometimes you want a color that's still reactive once it's dry. But I like these because they're not. I can put gesso over it and it's not going to creep up through the gesso. So some of those water-based inks, unless you really cover them well in a sealant, they're going to creep their way up through every layer that you have. So it's all a matter of really what you want to do. I lost some footage here. I stamped using hand-carved stamps twice. So the first time I did it, I used ultra thick embossing powder, hoping to get some texture, and then I tried going over that with some wax colors, but it really didn't work. It just looked nothing like a feather. So then I went back and stamped again with black ink and didn't get a super clear stamp because the pages are so textured, and that was fine. And then now I'm going over the lines using a Pitt pen and a couple micron pens. Both of these pens put down permanent ink. So if you use a wet media around it later, it's not going to smudge, it's not going to bleed. It's a nice permanent ink. And those micron pens come in all different sizes and shapes of nibs. They're really handy to have around for art journaling. Once I've got them colored in a little bit, and as you can see, I drew some lines and added some spots, some speckles, I've decided to go around the outside of the feathers with some gesso. And I'm doing that using an angled brush. And I'm sorry that that's off screen right there. I like to use the angle brush because you can get these nice straight lines when you use it, not as I'm using it here, but when you turn it on its side, you can go along the shape of an image very nicely with that angle of the brush. I used the lid of a spray inker to make some circles in gold. And now I am stamping my sentiment here using some very old stamps that I hardly ever use and decided they needed to see some love. I'm going to stamp the phrase, "Strange times indeed, be light," to remind myself that although right now things seem a little bit crazy, a little bit chaotic, maybe a little bit scary, but there's so much to be light about. There's so much to be happy about. As you can see, the stamps are not working super well. Again, that's sometimes what happens when you have a super textured background. And with those layers of paper and gesso, I'm not getting clean stamps. So I'm going to take this paint pen that I bought as a calligraphy pen, actually, and I bought it in San Francisco in Japantown at a stationery store. And I haven't used it a whole lot, but thought I would get it out for this. So I'm going to go back and just kind of clean up those stamps. I'm so sorry for my head in the way, but I really needed to see what I was doing and didn't realize I was sticking my head in front of the camera. This is going to take some bits, so again, I'm going to play some music, and I'll talk to you in a minute. Once I had all those words stamped, I added some extra stamps with an image from the stamp set that looks like one of those stamps you get on an envelope. And now I am using these Art Alchemy wax paints. I'm not really sure what you call them. And I've got Sweet Rose here and Peacock. So apparently I have a theme of pink and turquoise for this particular page. I'll be honest, this is the very first time I have used these waxes, so I really didn't know what I was doing, but I really wanted to use them. Again, I like to use my art journal pages as a place to try out products, see how they works, what doesn't work. It's a great place to explore things. And I've decided I'm just going to do a border, kind of alternating the colors here, turquoise and the pink for a bit, and creating a border around the whole page. Now I ask you, what art journal page would be complete without some splatters? Probably none of mine. So here I am splattering using some India ink, black ink, and I'll also do some splatters here in a minute with some of that gold ink. It's also a ink, not a paint, and some white as well. I decided once I was done with the splatters that the feathers themselves needed a little bit more pop. So I'm putting on my palette some of those liquid acrylic inks in the same colors. I'm doing some splatters, and then I'm going to go in and paint some of the parts of the feathers to add a little bit of a pop here and there, and just add a little bit more contrast between the feathers themselves and the background layer. Here I've decided that that gold that's in the background really just doesn't seem to tie in at all. So I'm painting some of that gold into the flower, or the feathers, excuse me, here and there, just to give it some pop. Here's the final page. I hope you like it. Please consider hitting like and subscribing.